Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Last episode, I offered a warning or word of caution, if you will, in regards to the brain fog that seems to be happening and increasing quite substantially. So if you haven't listened to that, please make sure and check that one out. I know it may not be extremely comfortable to listen to, but we have to address this reality. We in the United States, as many people around the world right now, are at war. We are at war with politicians primarily because they seem to have forgotten that they are public representatives. They're not our leaders to lord over us. They are to be our voice and to serve the will of the people. Now, there's plenty of people out there complaining about the politicians, and rightfully so. However, what does that have to do with living a fully engaged life? Well, when we look at what they are doing, as well as what they intend to do, it will prevent us from being capable of living a fully engaged life if we allow it. I've done an episode quite a while ago, which was the topic on politicians and priests. If you haven't had the opportunity to look that one up, I would recommend doing so. It's quite interesting. And we can see that the world of politicians is very much in opposition to anything spiritual. The political arena requires an incredible ego and a quest for power and control. And I don't care about this party, that party, or any other party. It's all the same. This is very unfortunate because it was not meant to be this way. Political offices were meant to serve the people. They were meant to be our voice and to help run local governments and national governments in a way that had the best interest of the people in mind. It was meant to be an act of service, which is selfless. Our government was not designed to allow people to dictate to us or lord over us. But we must understand how we got here, if there's anything we can do about it, in a way that will allow us to live a fully engaged life once again. There are three things that I would like to address in order to shed a little light on this. And I am doing this to help you to see for yourselves, so you don't take my word for any of this. Anything I'm going to say in these three different topics, you should take for yourself, incorporate into your own life, your own politicians, and start to look for yourself. Can you see the truth of what I'm saying? Or do you have a different sense of what that truth is? My goal here is to just help point out some things in a way that maybe people haven't really grasped yet, in order to get a better understanding for what is going on and why we are here. Now, what I'm going to be offering here is far more than just complaining about politicians, so please hang in there with me. it's through the development of mindfulness that we're able to look at things perhaps a little differently than what other people are understanding. And through this, we can help make this correction in the way things are. So I'm not looking at this in a manner of complaining. I'm not bitching about politicians. What I am doing is trying to bring to light some things that we have to become more mindful of as a whole. All of us, all of we the people, we have to become more mindful of things. And the first thing we have to become more mindful of is the words we choose, the labels we place on people. Okay? Because what is it that these people are referred to as? The elites. There is nothing elite about these politicians. Nothing elite. Just because they have become wealthy through various forms of corruption and criminal activity does not make them elite. Most of them are incredibly unintelligent. And we know they lie constantly. What is elite about that? The people were led to refer to them as elites. Oh, they're the elites, right? What happens psychologically when we start referring to people as the elites is that we suddenly feel beneath them. We feel disempowered. We feel like they have power over us. None of this is true. But in the process, people sit back and they let politicians do whatever they want to do, which is not in our best interest, but their own and their wallets. And we just sit back again in autopilot and get lazy. Complacency sets in because we feel that, oh, they'll take care of us. They'll make sure everything's okay. Yeah, and how has that turned out? These people are not elite. They are public servants. They are our representatives that we pay to do what we desire they do for the betterment of the country, not the other way around. But see, when we refer to them, when we allow them to have the label of an elite, then suddenly they get that type of power. Remember, politicians are very, very power hungry. Power, control, and greed. Those are the three things they love the most. Especially when it comes to our local and state politicians, we have to realize these are not leaders. There's nothing elite about these guys. They're not even leaders. They're representatives of we, the people. So we have to be very careful about the words we choose. And I've done entire podcasts on this because this is part of mastering the things we think, the things we say, and the things we do. When we are mindless or we get mentally lazy, we can easily be guided to use certain words, pick up and parrot certain words like elites, and pretty soon it's just commonplace. And we have to understand what happens when we use labels for others that serve to disempower ourselves. Well, one thing is pretty clear, isn't it? That they are then capable of holding power over us. It's not difficult to look back in world history and see how this has happened all throughout history, everywhere in the world. But in regards to the consciousness shift, it's time that we broke this mindless cycle and learned to hold, to embrace our own empowerment and stop surrendering it to others, especially those who do not have our best interest in mind. But as the ego grows, people live in fear, and then they are more likely to surrender their power so others keep them safe. The second thing that we have done is we have given politicians celebrity status. Think about this for a moment. How all of the Hollywood celebrities, right? We looked at them and aspired to live like they live. We were so impressed with their lifestyle and what they were doing and how much money they had and their relationships, right? You couldn't go into the supermarket without every checkout stand being filled with magazines and papers on celebrity stuff. Total garbage. But they were celebrities. You see the problem here? See the problem with the same idea as with the label elite? And if you recall, there was an entire movement where everything was all about celebrities, right? Everything was all about how incredible their lives were, and then everybody was trying to be a celebrity, right? The next YouTube celebrity or whatever it is, the next reality TV star. Everybody wanted a piece of the celebrity pie. Everybody wanted to be in Hollywood. But over time, that interest waned, especially amongst those who were a bit more intelligent. And now we are starting to see some of the atrocities that are taking place in Hollywood. Some of the truly horrific things that go on in Hollywood and in that entire realm of the celebrity is quite disturbing. And if you aren't completely clear on what I'm referring to, you can do a little research because it's just too disgusting to cover here. But as soon as this started happening, what did they do? All of the celebrities started to stress their political views. So we had the celebrities that kind of crossed over into politics. And at the same time, we had politicians crossing over to become celebrities. We've seen it with Ronald Reagan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and others, including how Trump turned the presidency into a reality show. Everything on the news, everything on TV, everything online, everything is all about what the politicians are doing. And we're hearing more about the politicians are doing and their silly relationships and things more than we are the celebrities now. See how that is switched? This is a big problem. When we attribute celebrity status to politicians, things are really, really out of control. So now, not only do they consider themselves to be elites, and we refer to them as such, but then they are treated like celebrities. See how the ego is going to these increasingly unsustainable levels? Is it any wonder that we find ourselves in this position? Our politicians now believe that they are beloved celebrities. Likewise, actors and actresses are there to entertain. They are there to act, not stress their political views. Politicians are there to represent we the people, not to be elites, not to be career politicians, and certainly not to be celebrities. And now, the third thing, the third aspect. This is the one that people are going to dislike the most, and this is one of the oldest things. This is one of the ways they began to use this. And this is when they got the people, the politicians got the people to perceive the two-party system, Democrats, Republicans, whatever. And we know there's a lot more than that, but we know that it doesn't matter. And we also know that the idea of two-party systems is mostly just an illusion. It's all the same thing. However, they got us to perceive that, just like this sports team against that sports team. And for those who have not engaged in mindfulness practices, those of ordinary mind, they handle this the exact same way. They look at their political choice of this party or that party in the same manner in which they look at this sports team or that sports team. And then they put everything they have behind that. And the problem with this is that what has happened with sports, for many, it is no longer a sport. It is no longer a source of entertainment, which is what it is designed to be, but it has become a type of religion. And every time their team loses, it's as though somebody is pointing out that their religion, that their beliefs are not real. Look at all of the violence. Look at how people scream and yell and kind of go into this weird trance thing as they're yelling at the players on their TV, and they're swearing and throwing things. And I mean, they even do this in public in sports bars and things, right? And look how angry they get at the stadiums. They start to riot. They have fights. They burn cars over a game. Games are designed for children. So through the absolute most powerful example of ego is the competition of this team against that team. And when people start to say, oh, we won, or we lost, you didn't do anything. You were sitting on your couch, right? You were sitting on your couch. What do you mean we, right? They won or lost, but we identify with it. Remember, I've done entire episodes on how dangerous it is when we start identifying with certain things like this. And it's when we start to identify with sports teams as ourselves that it now becomes a religion. And the same aspect has happened politically. The parallels of this are absolutely uncanny. Now, I don't care if you like sports, if that's your form of entertainment and you enjoy it, that's fine. But when you start to identify with it, you are being controlled by it through the ego. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The competition itself, the very act of competition, is ego-based, ego-driven. There's no way around this. It's just a reality. And if that's your thing, that's fine. But at least consider this. Sports are meant to be a form of entertainment. But when we allow ourselves to identify with the teams, with the sports, we become addicted to that. And then we have to have some sort of entertainment and some sort of identity-based entertainment in the form of sports, more and more and more. Until there is no season for this or that, we watch things and root for things and buy things year-round now. That's not only entertainment, but we have to understand it's being used as a distraction, because people who are so consumed with making sure they get to watch their sports, they are more likely to not do anything for themselves in order to resist or protect themselves or what have you in regards to what the politicians will do. And one of the reasons is because they're going to see them in their mind, and even if this is in their subconscious mind, they will see politicians in much the same way as they view various players of whatever sport they like. We have to understand it's a game. They are players. They are playing. But when we identify with it and become consumed by it, it quickly becomes a religion, at least a religion of sorts. And we then tend to look upon politics in much the same way. So now look at what is going on. We have politicians who have dedicated fans, who identify with them, who see them as celebrities and elites. Can you see what the problem is? Can you see what has happened? Is it really any wonder how some of these politicians attain a God complex? If we look at this objectively, What human being would be able to resist that sort of ego boost, right? Where people look at them that way as almost a religious figure with celebrity status, someone so elite. Of course, their ego is going to go into unsustainable levels and they will become incredibly power hungry. There is no other alternative because they are merely people of ordinary mind and their ego is already dominating them, or they would have really not been so enthusiastic to be a politician in the first place, right? Same with celebrities, same with anybody wanting to be called an elite. I think you're getting the idea. And if you think for a moment that this is not happening, that there are not people who basically worship sports figures, you're very wrong. And if you think that people are not creating some sort of worship for these politicians, again, you are wrong. I've seen on several occasions, whether it's Fauci or Trump or whoever, that they're saviors and all these things, and they look at them with this sort of idol worship as a religious figure, as a celebrity, as an elite. This has got to stop. If we, the people, all the people, if we make the decision to really embrace a consciousness shift, these are some of the things that we must change. The mind, our sense of mindfulness, our sense of awakening must change. Instead of spending all of our time worshiping sports figures and teams, we could spend that time practicing mindfulness and meditation. Remember, sports are merely a form of entertainment. And then we have yet another form of entertainment, don't we? All of the movies and television and all of that stuff, where we become so obsessed with this celebrity or that celebrity, and we care about what they have to say about life and what we should do and politics. Come on. Instead of surrendering to all of the entertainment form of distraction via sports and celebrity-based entertainment, movies and television, imagine the amount of time we would have every day to do far, far more important things. If you pay attention, if you have any degree of mindfulness, you will notice that the more we fall victim to, the more we surrender to the idea of all of this distractionary entertainment, the more we waste our lives, the more we throw our lives away, the more we miss the important things going on in our life. Instead of doing things with our children, with our spouses, doing things ourselves, we sit and we watch others do things. Look at how weak the mind becomes when we are sitting there with our jaws gapping, breathing through our mouth, just engaged in, entranced by whatever is on the screen. We become addicted to entertainment. And this addiction distracts us from living our lives. It makes our mind weak. It makes us weak. The same when it comes to the elites. These people are not elites. Politicians are not elite. Unfortunately, we cannot sit back and engage in other things. We have to pay attention to what these people are doing and call them out to make sure that they are representing the will of the people. So what does this have to do with spirituality and living a fully engaged life? Well, if you've paid any attention to all of the previous podcasts, you can probably see a great deal. We can see that we have to develop mindfulness. We have to be careful. We cannot be seduced by all of this entertainment and distraction. We must do something far more valuable with our time. This is the time of our life. It's all we have. It's important that we do something of value with it, not waste it. Nobody's ever going to value you because you sat around screaming at a television over a game. Nobody's ever going to remember you because you had a unrealistic obsession with celebrities. And through this, we can see our own faults, as well as those things that have helped to put our politicians in such an incredibly unreal and undeserved position of power, where they feel perfectly comfortable and justified in lying and taking away rights that we have that they do not have the right to give or take. And this is why the people are living in two different realities right now. Each country is facing this. The politicians are at war against the people. This sort of thing has taken us farther away from a positive consciousness shift, and is taking things in a very bad mental direction. We must correct it, and we must correct it now. We must accept responsibility for it. No one is going to come and save us. We need to do it, especially at this point in time where we have an international group of politicians that are hell-bent on creating their globalist reality that is definitely not in our best interest. We must turn this around and make our votes actually count, and to have representatives of us that are actually for us. So while there are good and bad politicians, there are more bad than good. And with the good ones, we have to make sure we treat them like the public servants they are meant to be, not as elite celebrities or religious figures. And we need to learn to stop surrendering our power so easily. We must become far more mindful. Please make sure and visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. Grab a copy of Expansion Mastery there, ebook, all kinds of good things. Check it out. And I appreciate all of your support. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you realize a few things that are going on, that have gone on, that have allowed for such things, regardless of the country you live in, especially for those of us here in the United States. We see this happening, but we know that others are suffering from this as well. Be careful about the things you say. Be careful about the entertainment that you allow to seduce you, for it does have the power to imprison you and prevent you from living your life. Till next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.